Welcome back to another episode of Casa de Confidence and the Confident You shows. I'm so happy that we are connecting today with our next guest, specifically because so many times I come across individuals from all walks of life and different journeys. And I want to remind you, my friend, that no matter where you are and what is going on in your life, we can continue to go in this journey to confidence. And it's not unique that we are going to find challenges, that we are going to find obstacles. But really, what we want to go ahead and focus is that we're not alone in the journey and others have been able to persevere. Our guest today is Danielle Spencer, and I want to just say I'm so grateful that she's here. Welcome to the show, Danielle.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a treat to be able to speak to you. And one of the questions that I have is in the perfect world, and everything turns out the way that maybe you've set out to be. What would you do anything different from what you have done?
I wouldn't have done anything, I say most things different. I would have done almost everything the same.
Okay.
Um, the one thing I'm going to say, this is at the, closer to the end of my journey, um, is that I would not have spent as much money on marketing. So out of
Okay.
everything that I've done, that's the only thing,
Interesting.
a change I would have made.
Okay. Why? Why would marketing be that thing that maybe you wouldn't have spent so much on?
Because I spent entirely too much. But when I started this part of the journey where I documented my experiences in the
Mhm.
book and I
Yep.
was going to talk about it, I didn't approach it from a business perspective.
Mm.
And if I had really sat down and kind of did a business plan, really did, looked at marketing as part of an overall business plan, I would have done, especially that part
Mhm.
differently. But I want to say in my eagerness to get the story out, to get it documented, I
Mhm.
didn't do that part that was due diligence that I feel on my part.
Yep.
I was more, I don't want to say in a rush, but extremely eager to kind of get the story out, get it
Mhm.
documented, and get it out in the
Yep.
public before anything else happened.
And I have to say, you are not alone when it comes to getting your story out there and having that urgency. We I actually have someone that we're speaking to at the end of the week, and also very similar to you. Um, their story is incredibly compelling, and they really had this desire to get it out as soon as possible because it's that little inkling. And I think that sometimes it's hard to describe to someone that hasn't been in that position that when we get that fire under our belt, we know that this is the path. Now, did you feel that inkling, little fire at all that pushed you?
More self-preservation. It wasn't,
Hmm.
um, well, I would say now it's changed where I'm more about education and awareness
Yeah.
for the general public. But
Hmm.
at the time, there were several events that happened where documentation or events were being fabricated.
Hmm.
And so when that happened, I felt an urgency that I have to get my story out, have to get it in paperwork and get it out to the world
Mm. Yeah.
so that if anything else happened where
Hmm.
money just showed up in my account that I
Hmm.
didn't had anything to do about, contacts with certain organizations happened, anything like that were
Hmm.
to occur,
Yeah.
I could have say, wait a minute, I told, here's this book. I put it
Hmm.
out there that showed where I kept, ringing the alarm bell about electronic conversations,
Hmm.
documentation, events can be fabricated and created.
Yeah.
especially when you're a whistleblower. So mine, like I said, mine was more of a self-preservation
Hmm.
at the time,
Yeah.
not I have this compelling story I need to tell. It was more like, no, I'm covering myself in case anything else, anybody had any
Mhm.
ideas of fabricating anything else.
Yeah. And you and I discussed that there's such a sensitive matter and that there are so many different things that can go askew and ultimately really be detrimental to you. And I'd love for you to share with the listeners a little bit of your story and how did you get here? And of course, we'll talk a little bit more about cybersecurity, which is something that it's something that we should really touch on as well for the listeners. But Danielle, tell me a little bit more and tell the listeners a little bit more about your story.
Sure. Well, I am a federal government whistleblower. And what I tell a lot of people is that I don't spend a lot of time talking about what I blew a whistle on because
Hmm.
it is very
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah. It's not relevant. It's
It's
just, yeah.
not. My
Yeah.
story really starts afterwards. The retaliation that I believe that I
Hmm.
experienced and continue to experience this day.
Yeah.
And for me, like I said, because what I blew the whistle on was very minuscule, it wasn't
Hmm.
mind blowing or salacious or even altruistic, where it would impact a lot of people. But the retaliation that I faced seemed to me very much blown out of proportion. One of the um, events that I occurred or that happened was that, like I stated, about events being fabricated.
Hmm.
So I'm on the deed of my parents' home, or at least I
Hmm.
was. We're in the process of trying to get me removed so that I'm not impacting them so much.
Hmm.
But they went to get a home equity line. Everything went fine until they got to the final point where they were doing a um, title search to make sure
Hmm.
that there was no deeds or judgments or liens against the house. Because I got involved at that late stage, all of a sudden, this title search came back with all these false or fabricated liens
Wow.
on the title search.
Mm.
Over It was over
Hmm.
$140,000 worth.
Wow.
And
That's
seven of
huge.
them, yes.
Oh my
And they
goodness.
accredited four of them to me, and over $120,000 of it, they were said was mine.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it was a battle for us to get
Mm.
that situation resolved. Where even though I had to do all of this work
Hmm.
to find out who the liens really belonged to, and there was no correlation. And even then, the title company refused to
Yeah.
rectify the situation. We ended up having to sue to make
Wow.
them clean up the title. And once we did that,
Hmm.
they quickly cleaned up the title and then started threatening us to sue us because they said, well, we resolved it, so you have to drop your lawsuit. So I
Hmm.
would say that's just one of the many incidents that happened, but that's kind
Wow.
of where I am. So it
Hmm.
started off with me just saying I can't do that because it breaks policy or the
Right.
law.
Hmm.
And starting in late 2017, 2018, this effort to completely discredit me, or
Hmm.
the title of my books are called Digital
Yep.
Assassination, or a digital assassination attempt for me to
Mm.
kind of kill my character,
Right.
name, my finances, anything like that. So that's kind of, I would say, where I am now. That's kind of
Hmm.
who I am.
And Danielle, one of the things, and again, you're a highly qualified individual. You have a background in business and finance, and you've really had a full career. And a lot of times when we're building a corporate career, we really spend time with creating a brand, creating a name for ourselves. And now to be in a place where you're being discredited and you know that your professional and personal, I guess, narrative is being rewritten by other people. How does that feel?
For, I would say up until recently, it was almost I want to say a disbelief,
Mm-hmm.
where I was in uh, a mindset of kind of disbelief because, like I said, it was so trivial. And I could
Mm.
not believe that anybody would go to this length over something so trivial.
Yeah.
The news media wouldn't even pick it up. So
Yeah.
why are all these things happening for something so
Mm-hmm.
trivial? So I never could understand that. I still don't understand why it's
Mm-hmm.
done, but except, the thing that I think about is just you have bad actors in the world. You
Oh.
have them, and they're going to do whatever they need to do or want to do to get their
Mm-hmm.
way.
Yeah.
And I would say I have a friend who is very good in thinking like a criminal because that's kind of what
Mm-hmm.
that person did, where
Right.
to help catch criminals.
Mm-hmm.
And what they told me was that when you have that type of mindset, a criminal or a bad actor mindset, they're coming from it from their perspective.
Yeah.
So if I'm a cheater or if I commit fraud,
Mm-hmm.
I automatically think that you do it too.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go through all these minutes and do research on you and I
Mm-hmm.
can't find it, it's because I'm not looking hard enough. Because if I do that, you have to be the same way. So it's
Mm-hmm.
hard for them to believe that you don't have the same issues that they do. So that's kind of why I've been in this circle for
Mm-hmm.
almost 8 years.
Yeah. And Danielle, I think that I look at in school when we were bullied, what a toll it takes. And for you, it definitely has taken a toll. And you have been really experiencing levels of PTSD and trauma. Will you speak to that a little bit?
Oh, sure. And I would say that was something that recently that I've learned, I was in
Mm-hmm.
2024. What I did not realize is that going through all of these different events and
Mm-hmm.
things, that my body
Yeah.
was taking a toll. Mentally,
Mm.
no one could tell. I couldn't tell. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah.
And, but I kept getting ill. Um, all
Mm-hmm.
of these different illness, I kept getting infections, colds,
Mm-hmm.
um, internal infections where I would get sick, blood work off. I mean, it was all of these different illnesses. And the one thing, at least, I mean, everything was concerning, but the thing that I didn't like the most was the chronic fatigue, where
Mm-hmm.
you're
Mm-hmm.
tired all the time. And
Right.
where even doing something like going and make a phone call, it's like, I'm too
Mm-hmm.
exhausted, I'll do it tomorrow. And it was in December of 2023 that my primary care, uh, gave me a slip and she said, I wanted you to see a psychiatrist. And
Mm.
I was very,
Were you
honestly,
taken
I was
back?
very upset. And I'm
Yeah.
like, there's nothing mentally wrong with me. I'm having these physical symptoms. What's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong? And it took me almost 5 months to actually see the psychiatrist because I was so like, you don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
physically ill. But when I finally went to see her, she kind of explained kind of what was the problem. She said,
Mm-hmm.
you're one of those individuals who kind of like are dissociative.
Yeah.
So she said, because of the symptoms of your body, we were calling it started off with stress, anxiety, and depression. She said, but
Mm-hmm.
anyone talking to you, you would never be able to pick it up. She
Right.
said, because you're not quiet, you're not sad, you're not unhappy. She said, you're not exempt, showing any of the emotional symptoms. She said, but your
Yeah.
body is showing everything that fits in that category. And so we started off with first, like taking me out of the work environment.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, she took me out of work altogether. And that was, I want to say, the hardest thing for me to do because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, how is this going to help?
Yeah.
And again, I was a little upset with her, but I said, you're the doctor. I'm going to trust you. And once
Mm.
she did that, within a couple of weeks, the symptoms started going away.
Mm-hmm.
And I was out of work for about 4 months. I came back, not all the time, all the way, but just little by little. And then as I came back, the symptoms came back. And I think she kind of knew it all along that I had trauma, PTSD,
Mm. Yeah.
like all of these different symptoms. But she had to kind of show me and let me realize that this is what you're going through. And so now we're dealing with the trauma,
Hmm.
PTSD. And like she sent me to a trauma therapist and saw him for maybe a month and a half. And he
Hmm.
said, there's nothing I can do to help you. He said, because there's no emotional connection.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to deal with that now.
Hmm.
Well, how do you deal with someone who's having PTSD,
Right.
but there's no emotional connection? So there's no mental or emotional connection to what
Hmm.
they're going through, what's happening, but their body's picking it up. And so we're looking at different options for that.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, mentally, emotionally, I don't feel it.
Yeah. I think that that's one of the things when we really take on and we need to persevere and keep going. And I think that when you decided to be that whistleblower, you knew that there was no turning back and you needed to stay the course, I would imagine. And you know, having been someone that has gone through so many different things, but I know that when my body is not functioning well, it really goes back to the stress. It really goes back to what is causing that I'm not, you know, working through. And I know that this is probably so much more in your case because you live it every day. And now you also know the value of protecting our privacy online too.
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think people don't put enough stock? You know, I'm guilty of this, Danielle. I use a lot of the same passwords sometimes. I I don't take some of the steps to protect myself in my online digital presence. And anything, you know, can happen. People can hack me. People can take away or add things that are fictitious to my credit, to everything. What are some things that maybe people miss when we need to really protect that ourselves? And because there's a lot of also not only protecting ourselves and our digital footprint, but a lot of people know more about us than what we want people to know. Is
Mhm.
that, would you say that that's a true statement?
Yes. But I would say, like, most people, at least this is my belief,
Hmm.
most of us are just good, decent people.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we approach situations and different events with like a pure heart or from
Mm.
our perspective.
Yeah. Right.
So we're not always thinking about what's the worst that can happen.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think that, me personally, I don't think that's healthy,
Hmm.
because
No.
you can kind of drive yourself crazy.
Yeah, and you'll be in that fight or flight all the time, and certainly that's not healthy at all either, mentally or physically.
But where I think that there are some things that we can do,
Hmm.
but to me, the onus is more on others.
Mm.
For example, if your bank wants all of this personal information from
Hmm.
you, it is their responsibility to protect your
Hmm.
information.
Yeah.
Um, we should be able to trust our institutions, banks, organizations
Hmm.
to value the information they're giving us, or that
Right.
we're giving them, and to
Hmm.
protect it. My experience has been that what happens, um, either people just put all this stock in technical solutions, that we do technical
Yeah.
solutions that'll solve everything,
Right.
or they don't have a person in the room who is a specialist in risk management,
Hmm.
who it's their job to take an adversarial view. And they don't
Mm,
just look at it from a technical perspective, they're
right,
really going to look at the human part, which is
right,
what
right.
we miss a lot. That
Hmm.
they sit in the room and there are people coming up with all these wonderful solutions and all these wonderful products and what we're going to do. That
Hmm.
person says, okay, but what if John Doe comes in and he wants to do X, Y, and Z? How are you going to protect to make sure that they're unable to do that? Because what happens when you have that person
Hmm.
who's risk-minded, who's the adversary of the
Hmm.
group, other people like, no, that's Debbie Downer or John Downer. We
Right,
don't want to
right.
hear them. They're always saying the worst. But you need that person in there because they're going to look at whatever it is from a different perspective and
Mm.
say, hey, well, how do we, what roadblocks or mitigation strategies can we put in
Hmm.
place
Hmm.
to make sure that what your strategy that's going on that you describe doesn't happen, or if it does happen, we can um, catch it, resolve it before it becomes a problem for our customers or for our institution or
Hmm.
organization.
I feel like in the current world, there's greater risks for us personally in our data, our information, because we're in this era of AI. And yet, we leverage AI in so many different ways that we don't even understand. And what I tend to believe, and I really, maybe I'm just, I don't know, my perspective is a little different than a lot of people, but I wonder if I just feel like companies are assessing and amassing great information on us that then can be used to influence us in so many different directions. Am I thinking the
No,
worst case scenario?
no, but that's kind of what's happened now. Like people will
Hmm.
say their cell phones are listening to their conversations. So you'll be talking about buying a mattress, and next thing
Hmm.
you know, you look at your phone
That's right.
and all of these
Hmm.
mattress ads are coming up,
Hmm.
or the algorithms
Right.
on social media. If you click on one thing, it'll bring up all this other information.
Oh, a
So
hundred
that
percent, a hundred
already,
percent.
it's
Yep.
already there. So
Hmm.
that's something that already exists. And
Hmm.
for businesses, especially in a capitalistic society,
Hmm.
they love that because
Yeah.
they can use that to help market their business. But
Hmm.
to me, but the challenge and what we don't have in place or any either governance or policy or law to govern its use,
Hmm.
its sale, um, uh, who that information is shared, all that type of
Hmm.
stuff. That's what's missing. And if you like people listen, um, I've heard like some, and I don't remember who was saying it. Oh, we don't want any rules or any
Hmm.
laws around AI. We need to just innovate. So there's those, like I said, that group of
Right.
people who feel that guardrails
Hmm.
stops them from innovation.
Innovating. Yeah. Yeah.
And no, go ahead and do what you want to do. But once you show us what you can do, wait a minute. So how do we make sure that that doesn't end up where we don't want it to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's missing.
Yeah. I keep thinking, there's so many ways, especially now, and I'm not afraid to talk about the fact that many of the guardrails, for as little guardrails as we've had in our data, in the way that business is conducted in this world, are some of that is kind of being stripped from our society. And we are influenced. My husband had a very interesting thing happen to him. He had a very old cell phone, and an Apple, and he decided that he was going to go to the other team and get a fancy Samsung phone. And he got this phone, and the terrible thing about it is that a lot of his information in switching the phones was lost, right? He had to uninstall a lot of different things. And then now that he got the phone, and it's still not, first of all, they sent him a phone and now they want him to change his number to a Tennessee number. And we live in Connecticut. And again, it should have been just an easy transfer of the number. But it seems like things are getting complicated, so much so in so many different ways. But he said to me, he reinstalled some of the social media platforms, but his algorithm was gone. And normally, the type of videos that appeal to him that he watches were not coming up in his feed. But what he felt was coming up was a lot of propaganda, things that he doesn't align with, things that are, making him think, oh, am I crazy? Maybe they're right. And I think that happens to so many of us, and we don't realize that it's happening.
Yes.
Yeah, how do we avoid it? Is there a way to avoid it, I guess, because we don't have the bandwidth and we don't have, we're just real people going about our business, living our life, making a living, hopefully creating an impact on the lives of others, being the best that we can. But that's sort of like that big, it's kind of like, what do we do about the hole in the ozone, right? Like, what do I do? I'm going to recycle, but is that even going to make an impact? How do we answer this question? And you may not have an answer, but I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Again, well, I would say our personal responsibility is first to educate as many people that we know and you feel comfortable talking about these things with, that it actually occurs and happens. That AI is basically mathematic equations. You feed it and it tells you, you feed it information and that's how it learns.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my biggest things, I encourage people of color and women to be in the computer science, especially into AI, because we need to have representation. Because if not,
Amen.
these algorithms are going to be skewed other ways.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that we can do personally is make sure we educate ourselves and educate as many as we can, others that we can. That's, I want to say, for us. And then, some things about, watching what you share online, what you
Mm-hmm.
view. Those are things that we can do, but to address the larger narrative, that takes more of local, state, and even federal legislation.
Right.
And we might not be able to get it all the way at the federal level because money's involved, but you can
Right.
do that locally. You can do it even statewide,
Mm-hmm.
where you look at, well, what are our laws governing certain the use of AI, our information? What do we do?
Mm-hmm.
How can we protect that? Those to me are what I believe will be the biggest difference makers.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are people out there who want to believe propaganda, and there's nothing you can
Right.
do about that. You
Nothing
have
you
to
can do
use,
about it. Absolutely.
but there are a lot of us who want to know the truth and want to know, well, how do we kind of combat when these happen?
Mm-hmm.
So it's called, in IT world, it's called governance,
Mm-hmm.
but policy. How do we change these algorithms? How do we do certain things
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that it's when people are not telling the truth or they're making up things,
Right.
it's spot out there that this is for entertainment purposes or something like that, where um, it's known that what you're looking at is not the truth and not in some little fine print on the bottom. No, it needs to be up in the front. So those are, like I said, to me, it's more something that we have to do from a legislative perspective.
Well, I think that, the question, I guess, would be, how can we inform ourselves, right? And I love that you're talking about representation. I'm a woman of color. I'm a Latina, and a lot of times I feel like I'm spinning against the wind, that nobody is listening, but yet I feel compelled to show up and I feel compelled to speak up. And yet, so many other people I know maybe are afraid to do so. Where did you find your courage to speak up?
Honestly, like for me, because I've been asked that before, I come from of a somewhat activist family. So my father was in the union. He was a union shop steward. And as a young person, I remember him going through cases and me and my siblings looking at some of the cases that he was doing. He was also, well, both my parents were in the NAACP. And I
Mhm.
remember going to meetings with, so I didn't know any different. I would say
Mhm.
a lot of things I did not know any different. It wasn't until after the retaliation that, oh, this is not normal. People
Yeah.
don't speak up when, so
Yeah. It's
I couldn't say oh, I had this curtain. No, I
no,
didn't know any
you
different.
just didn't know.
So,
Yeah, I love that. And I think that this goes back to values, right? And I think that when we are standing for something, it's because it's an ingrained value for us and we don't know any better. And yet, so many people, and this is why I tell business owners, find out what your values are as a business owner. Because if you don't, you're going to fall for anything. And then there's a mismatch message and people don't really know who you are and they don't resonate with you as a person. And whether it be in business or in our personal life, a lot of times it takes a lot of soul searching to really be able to figure out like, what do I believe and why? And is this true? Is it real? And avail ourselves of all the different things that we can to be able to make informed decisions.
mhm.
Yeah. One of the words that you use in the title of your book is cyber terrorism. That's a big word, and it's a really charged word. How did you come up with a title for your book? And did you know that that was one of the words that needed to be there? How did you decide and how do you define cyber terrorism?
So for the title of the book, I actually had a friend and she and I were talking, trying to come up with different titles for what would work or wouldn't work. And so she knew the assassin. She actually came up with the assassination part.
Okay.
And so we were trying to think through what should go in front of it. And I forgot, exactly kind of how she worded it. And it was like, well, what would you describe what you're going through? And I said, well, it's like digital assassination, basically.
Mhm.
And said, okay, that's it. I
Yeah.
said, okay.
Yeah.
So that's how the title came about. The other part was I have that other friend who kind of does
Hmm.
uh, I won't say covert operations, but basically can think like a criminal.
Hmm.
That individual explained a lot of what was happening. And actually, there were two people who really explained a lot of what was happening to me.
Hmm.
I'm not techie, but
Hmm.
I understand technology and the different things. So I would know that things were not right. And so when, like, for my parents, they got a ticket that was fabricated, like a traffic ticket that was fabricated.
So
So
scary.
when things like that happen, I was like, I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't explain what it was. And these other two individuals explained to me, oh, that's cyber terrorism. I'm like, cyber terrorism, what is that?
Now, how did you know it was a fabricated ticket? I'm curious. I have to play devil's advocate.
Because, and this is something that it was weird that this happened, but they both had a doctor's appointment at the exact same time
Hmm.
that they were supposedly failing to stop for this school bus. And usually, especially with older people,
Right.
the husband may have a doctor appointment and the wife
Hmm.
just goes with him, or the wife
Hmm.
and the husband will just
Yeah,
go.
my husband and I are getting to be that age that we go to each other's
Yes.
appointments.
But both of them
Hmm.
had a doctor appointment at the exact same time with the same doctor as a dermatologist.
Right.
But both of them had the appointment at the same time. And so when I saw the ticket, I was like, wait, you guys were at the doctor's office. And I had the doctor slip and everything. And so after I calmed down, because I was really upset that this
Mhm.
happened to them, um, I wrote, a letter to the office, a ticketing office, and I said, cloning hasn't been perfected.
Yeah.
So since cloning has not been perfected, they can't be in two places at the same time. And here is the thing from the
Mhm.
doctor
Right.
showing that they had this appointment. And so the ticket just went away. Oh,
Mhm.
it's administrative error. And I'm like, no, 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 no. That doesn't make sense.
Ah, that's
But
crazy.
but it was, and I said that was just one experience.
Mhm.
But what cyber terrorism is, it's the same thing like terrorism is when you're trying to scare somebody either into
Mhm.
being quiet or to doing something that you want them to do. That is a terroristic act. Um,
Mhm.
when we call it cyber terrorism, that's when you use computers
Mhm.
or technology to
Mhm.
basically terrorize someone.
Yeah.
Um, you can do, like I said, fabricating events, messing with people's bank accounts,
Mhm.
creating, uh, fabricating conversations or doing videos saying people did something or they were at a
Yeah.
certain place that they did. So all of those types of things
Mhm.
are cyber terrorism. And that's kind of really what my book really talks about is using technology, the misuse of technology to harass, to terrorize, or to try to assassinate someone's character.
Mm. I'm listening to you speak, and I think that there's so many ways in which people, especially in this environment, we are being we're putting ourselves out there in which we can be, the victims of being silenced because we speak our minds. Speaking against things that may be happening may be the thing that comes back to us in other ways that we may not realize are all interconnected. How do we protect ourselves?
The first thing is to know the different techniques and know the different ways that technology can be misused. And one of the things that I tell people, trust your gut. If
Mm.
something does not seem right to you, don't talk yourself out of it. Do not talk yourself out
Ah.
of it like, oh, maybe I thought I saw a car sitting on a corner
Mhm.
and no, maybe that's just me. I thought my alarm system, I turned it on, but it's off. Maybe that's just me. No,
Yeah.
make a note of it. And if you're someone like now, I'm getting to that
Mhm.
age where I don't remember everything, get yourself don't do it electronically because
Right.
anything electronic can be manipulated. Get your little notebook and make a note when
Mhm.
things like that happen and it
Yeah.
seems
Yeah.
off.
I mean, I
Um,
have my little notebook. I forgot where I put it. Someone gave me a little black notebook, and lately I just been writing in the little black notebook because, first of all, I remember better when I write it in a book like that. Yeah. Wow.
Pay
Who
attention.
so I remember that often we hear Mr. Rogers talked about in times of trouble, find the helpers. Who are the helpers in this environment, and who can we trust? Because it seems like, not that we are going to go about our life being distrustful, but I think that there's a level of precaution that we need to take. And when we start to see the things that maybe we think were crazy, who do we go to? How do we unpack that? Because you have individuals who could walk you through and say, "Hey, this is what this is," right?
Yes.
But a regular person doesn't. Who are the helpers in this case?
So the first thing I would tell them, if you don't have a techie person in your life or someone who really understands intelligence or counterintelligence, which I think a lot of people don't, then
Mhm.
I'm definitely probably one of the people that you want to make sure that you connect with.
Mhm.
Um, but really, I don't say not all of us, but there may be people in your life that you don't know. Um, if they work in IT,
Mhm.
especially the technical part, and especially, I hate to say a younger person, but definitely younger people, because
Mhm.
they are more in tune
Right.
with things like that, have those conversations with them, those offline conversations. Well, what does this mean or what does that mean? There are also organizations like I think Georgetown Law has a privacy group.
Hmm.
They are very good to know because even though they focus on privacy, they oftentimes talk about how technology is used
Yeah.
to
To
violate
manipulate and yeah.
our privacy.
Hmm. Yeah.
There are also other groups like I know that it's ISSA. I don't remember what it stands for, but they're an international security group.
Okay.
Now, most of the times, what their talks about are very technical, but
Hmm.
on occasion, they do talk about security from layman's perspectives.
Hmm.
And there's also the opportunity for either your local library. A lot of times they'll have layman's terms, kind of
Hmm.
tech talks or tech hours where they can help you if you have a situation. So your local libraries and even community colleges or state colleges,
Hmm.
they'll have organizations that at least I would trust
Hmm.
then they know what they're doing and they don't necessarily have an agenda except
Yeah.
for to educate um,
Hmm.
the people or their
Yeah.
stakeholders.
I think that that's a really good way of looking at it. I think that if the agenda is something that is going to benefit an organization as opposed to the well-being of the people, right? That's one of the things that I would count as a red flag. I think that also if an organization is trying to educate you and get a result that is positive for you, then be open to the idea that this is a helper. And you mentioned, and of course, I do want to mention that you are one of these helpers. You know the ins and outs of digital spying, and you know because we're so not aware, it's important to really be able to find the people that can support us or even, give us the language for it because sometimes we don't even have the language for it. Danielle, I have to say one other question that I really want to unpack. And we talk about going after our dreams, our journey to confidence. And I would imagine that there was a level that you maybe felt unsure of what was going on and unsure of yourself. And would you consider that you are better for having gone through the experience?
Yes.
In
Uh,
what way?
Um, the first is that if I had not gone through this experience and someone had told me about what
Mhm.
happened, I would not have believed them. Um,
Yeah,
because like I said, I spent almost 8 years in denial that is this really going on?
right.
Um, so it gave me a level of knowledge that I would never have had if I had not physically gone through it. The other part, I want to say I have a lot more empathy and sympathy for a lot of other different groups.
Hmm.
Um, One thing, like I said, while I could look like, I say, a woman who's in an abusive situation, not that I never had sympathy before,
Hmm.
but in one of the incidents I talk about in the book, where when I was trying to leave the organization, it was like they didn't want me to leave. Like they were doing everything that they could so that I could not quit the job or get out.
Yeah.
And going down to my desk, trying to get everything out before someone noticed me.
Hmm.
The first thought that came to my mind while I'm down there, my heart's beating, is this must be how an abused woman feels when she's trying to get away from her
Wow.
abusive spouse or partner. And that I had never thought of it before, but that became real at that time. Um, Now realizing that I'm going through trauma and having PTSD,
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a lot more empathy for veterans or
Hmm.
for people who have gone through traumatic experiences. I thought I understood before, but it's a whole different, now that I'm experiencing it, like for you to have this disconnect or this problem or challenge, and it's through no fault of your own, it's through someone else, their
Hmm.
actions.
Right.
So it has given me a lot more empathy
Hmm.
for different groups. I'm still not as patient as a person as I'd like to be, but I
No,
have a
I
lot
think
more
nobody,
patience
none of
now
us are. None of us are,
than I
Danielle.
had before.
Yeah.
So for me, personal growth,
Mhm.
that has has experience has given me a lot of personal growth in different areas.
Yeah. So, what are you doing now in the world, and how can people leverage your expertise or partner with you or bring you into their organizations? Tell us a little bit about where you are now.
Well, like I said, my focus right now is mostly on educating and awareness. So anyone who wants to know about data theft, cyber terrorism,
Mm,
um, digital assassination, I am willing to have those conversations. And again, I will say, so that's the one part, especially with the book and those type of things. The other part that I'm like working also, because I still am in the work field right
mhm,
now, or in the work, I'm still working. I am a union person who
mhm.
still works for the federal government.
Right.
And so given our current environment, working with different coworkers, different individuals to help
Mhm.
them to get through and deal with this our current environment, dealing with the
Yeah.
current
The
environment.
current
A lot of
environment.
them don't understand a lot of, like some people's like, I have all this anxiety and I can help talk them
Mhm.
through. I said,
Yeah.
well, at least you can recognize it because I could never recognize it, and really get into them the importance of um, when you realize that you're having anxiety,
Mhm.
when you realize that it's impacting your health, now is the time to address it before
Yeah.
it really
Amen to
gets
that.
bad. So
Yeah, and I would even say, Danielle mentioned that she wasn't aware that she was going through some of these things. The a lot of times we can't see chronic fatigue, and it's hard to diagnose. And PTSD is something that we have learned a lot more in the last few years. But protect your space, protect your mind, find the helpers, and know that, living with fear is not a great place to be. And seek to, not everybody's a person of faith. And certainly I know that for me, that's one of the places where I go to know and that there's more out there that I can rely on rather than just my own understanding. You definitely can connect with Danielle, my friends. You can connect with her on LinkedIn. We'll have her website, we'll have her email so that people can get to, leverage her expertise when it comes to protecting your data. Identifying the places where we are vulnerable online and really, again, creating an environment in which we can feel confident that this area of our life is not at risk in any way. Thank you for being here, Danielle. I've enjoyed talking to you today.
thank you for having me. It's,
Yeah,
it's
well,
great.
again, if there's one thing that people should do and you want to leave them with that piece of nugget of information, something that will be an easy implementable something so that they can be more protected online and in their cyberspace, what would it be?
Use it's short term, uh, it's called a VPN.
Okay, yeah.
That stands for Virtual Private Network.
Mhm.
Use that as often as you can. It's especially when you're doing anything financial. And I
Okay.
don't just mean banking accounts. If you're looking at your insurance,
Hmm.
your tax, anything where your identity is
Hmm.
involved, use a VPN. That's
Okay.
one thing that I would
Great
recommend
advice.
anybody can do.
Amazing advice. Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you, so grateful for you accepting the invitation to be a part of this conversation here on the show. And I know that many people will benefit from hearing one last plug for your book. Tell us where we can get the book and the name of the book.
The book series is called Digital Assassins. So it's Digital Assassins. The first one, it's Digital Assassins Surviving Cyber Terrorism in a Digital Assassination Attempt. The other one is Digital Assassins 2, Taking the Fight to the Judiciary. And then the third one is called Protecting Yourself, how data theft can impact you. So those are the three. And they're online.
Okay.
So if you use Amazon or Barnes and Noble or I think it's bookshop.org, but
Okay.
online bookstores.
All right. Well, I love that this is the path that you're taking. Your what we call taking your the mess, and it's not yours, but it was a mess that you found yourself in, and now it's your message to help others. And thank you for being that person that is helping others. So I appreciate you. And my friends, I invite you to connect with Danielle. I invite you to click on the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, go follow her on all of the social media platforms. Send her a message. Let her know what this show meant to you and how it's creating an impact. Because the work that we do sometimes we feel no one is listening. But if we can impact you, and I know that at least one person will walk away with something that they needed to hear, I want to encourage you to go and let Danielle know what an impact she's made. And until later, my friends, thank you again for tuning in. Always, you can send me some feedback on the show, any comments or questions, or if you really want to connect with the guest. I'm always loving to introduce people. So don't forget, go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.